Hey, everybody. Welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby. And of course, this podcast is dedicated to small and medium-sized nonprofits doing very big things. And right now, those small, medium-sized nonprofits have some very big things to consider, and that is marketing and branding. And what on earth do you do during a global pandemic? And these are the questions that we are going to answer today because my friend McKinnon, she is the founder of MSPIRE. She is the bodaciousbrander, and she's on the official Do Good Better podcast today. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it. Excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you. This is very topical today because I think a lot of nonprofits are in pause mode and they are not doing many things, and they should be. So I brought you on because you are going to inspire them, inspire them to do better when it comes to marketing today. So if you are tuning in for the first time, you're saying, Amanda McKinnon, I like the sound of this person, but they have no idea who you are. Give a kind of a 5,000-foot view on who you are, what you do. Go, floor is yours.
Perfect. Yes. So like you said, I'm the bodaciousbrander of MSPIRE. And so really what that means is I help businesses of all sizes, for-profits, nonprofits, really decide who they are. You know, from a brand perspective, it's much bigger than a logo. You think of customer experience, patient experience, you know, whatever your business is, and then ultimately turn that into a marketing strategy to get the masses to know about you, your target audiences to know about you, and do business with you and continue doing business with you.
I love that. One of your big things, which is figuring out who you are as an organization. I think a lot of nonprofits have spent a lot of time sort of reflecting on that exact same question. And what better time than a global pandemic when you are forced not to do much is to reflect on that. Why is figuring out who you are so important, and why do you hammer this home to businesses and nonprofits?
Well, I think, you know, businesses need to look at themselves as a person. You know, we talk about personal brands and business brands, but ultimately people do business with people. And so you have people in your organization, and they ultimately are the ones that help create your brand. And so I just think that, you know, you talk about this pandemic, it's a perfect time to take this slow down, to really look at who you are, how you're speaking, you know, from a social perspective, your marketing materials, you know, things like that. And just really figure it out. I talk a lot about authenticity. And I think that you have to, once you know and define what your brand is, you have to own that, really, regardless of what's going on.
Is this environment and new reality we live in a real, is this going to affect the authenticity of people? Or, and in other words, is authenticity going to matter more now that we are uncovering a lot of things that we didn't know about organizations, like all this stuff, because we're on all the time figuring it out? Is this like new? Like,
yeah, I really think it is. You know, we thought it was hard before to, you know, separate ourselves from the masses. I mean, you look at the amount of nonprofits and just organizations, you know, that are out there, and it's asinine, but you have to look at it too, like I said, get it to that human component. Not everybody is going to like you, want to do business with you. And so what you need to do is find those people who do, and then also use them as your brand ambassadors. You know, give those people the opportunity to be your voice instead of having everything fall on your organization too. I mean, especially in the Midwest, we want to support people. I mean, it's crazy the level of community that I've seen, even when you can't be with each other in this area. And people want to help people. That's the bottom line.
I think that's so interesting to consider your nonprofit as a person. To give to an entity, to this sort of nebulous idea of, I'm going to give to a building that's going to put it into a coffer and then do a thing and a service. One of the most effective things that I've ever found as a fundraiser is personalizing your story in order to make a deeper connection with a donor, for example.
Absolutely.
This is the same thing with marketing, right? So shouldn't you just sort of think about what it looks like as your nonprofit as a person? how do you even start there? I know you've got 1.5 billion techniques, and I'm not going to let them all out of the bag, because you get the delightful pleasure of calling Amanda at the end of the show and saying, how can I get you into my office to talk about this stuff? But what would you tell people over a cup of coffee as a starting point when considering your organization in this person-centric sort of marketing brain that you've got?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that honing in on your team is such an important component of personalizing your brand, and ultimately even telling your teams, stories. You know, I have a client that I work with, Bodyworks Physical Therapy, and one of the things that we always talk about is the engagement around the posts that we do with their team. I mean, it's crazy, but you post a stock image or a link or whatever it is, and people are just, bypassing it. And so that's really been our strategy, is how can we bring, your team and lift them up as a part of this brand, because they're ultimately helping her run her business. They're the faces that people see when they come in for their physical therapy. And so that's really what we're working on, is like having those conversations and thinking, look at all the moments that are happening in your organization and how can we share that. So it's a patient win, or a birthday even of an employee. People just love to connect with people, and that's what it's really all about.
I think the gravitation towards frontline workers and those who are getting their hands and feet dirty in the programming and services of the organization are exponentially more interesting than the programs and the services that they're actually doing. Because there's some sort of relatability, I think, on a personal side that I might not know every nuance of some sort of nonprofit organization working with developmental disabilities or delay, but I sure relate with the individual who has a family, who also then works, who also then does this with their kids, or is a working mom or whatever. There's a relatability there, even if I don't have a relatability to the individuals that they're serving or the developmental disabilities that those individuals have. I can relate to the person who's helping, and therefore I'm now open to understanding more about the nonprofit in the first place. And I think what a wonderful way as an organization to appreciate your employees, then pointing out what wonderful people they are and humanizing a mission statement, which is inherently not personal anyway, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Lana Whiting, who I know or talking, I say messaging. Yeah. That's kind of the new way of the world of talking. But we were, discussing kind of core values. And I've been in business for almost 8 years. And when I started, I decided that my 3 core values were to be a learner, a giver, and a fun haver. And I still feel like those represent my business and who I am as an individual, even though my business has evolved and will continue to evolve. One of the things that we had talked about was, things like quality and integrity. You go, duh, I hope those are like foundational things of a business. I mean, you should have integrity. You should provide quality. Yes. It's just funny, but that's how it used to be. It used to be, kind of those buzzwords, and now core values have the opportunity to mean a whole heck of a lot more, and really be truly the guiding principles of who your organization is versus just words on a wall.
Yeah, I like that, because again, words and plans are great, mm-hmm. but if you're not acting on them and then you're not showcasing what people are actually doing, and it's a waste. It's a waste completely.
Yeah.
What about marketing in these? Oh God, we got to. By the way, side note: as a marketer, we need help figuring out a couple of things. One, in these trying times,
unprecedented times,
in these new normal. My God in heaven, please help us. So I'm going to leave this on your plate. You come up with that, and then we will all pay you for the pleasure of coming up with different terms.
In these super poop emoji times.
Yes, there you go. In poop emoji times, which is our current state in poop emoji times, marketing now more than ever, I think, is important, but not a lot of nonprofits are going to dump a lot of time, energy, and money into marketing, but they should. Why? I think we need to discuss this, because one of the things that is easily cuttable and I'm using giant air quotes for those of you listening on your favorite podcast stream, cuttable budget items is marketing. Which, by the way, if you are part of this leadership team that is cutting marketing, don't be an idiot and double the amount of money you're spending on marketing, because nobody else is. So do the opposite, which will help your business and your nonprofit. Anyway, it's the most important thing I think right now that you can do is double down on how you're getting your marketing out. To you, what is most important? What are people doing that are successful at it? And how can nonprofits apply some of the things that you're seeing in this new normal?
Yes. Well, I even think, from I look at a budget standpoint, and I've, had conversations with clients and they're like, this is scary. We need to be cutting. And some have really, decided to stay the course, I think, which is super important, because you always have to be out in front of people. I mean, that is what branding is. I mean, they talk about top of mind awareness, all of that stuff, but it is really super important. I think one of the things that I've seen people doing really well from a social perspective is, videos and lives and being okay with having those conversations in a very fluid state, not
perfect.
Yes.
Because it's okay to be
no
that.
filtering. I mean, just doing it. That's what people want. They're so sick of the BS and smoke and mirrors and fluff. And I mean, that's one thing when we talk about branding that I always tell clients. I'm like, with me, this is who you get at happy hour, and this is who you're going to get at a meeting. And I'm, professional and fun and, all those things, but it's exhausting trying to be somebody or something that you're not. And people can read through it. I don't care what anyone says. Even if you think you're successful at it, it's not the case.
And again, I think this pandemic is revealing a lot of truths about a lot of companies and organizations and nonprofits that are not what you thought they were, or what there's a lot of gross going on. And I think you can tell because they are posting things that are completely different than what they should be, or that they are. And like you said, it's gross. And I think people will give you a lot of grace if you make some errors and it's not perfect, but at least you're being authentic. And back to your original point, that authenticity piece is so unbelievably necessary now. And in fact, I would even say it's more critical now than it's ever been, because people are not looking for or to donate to an organization that sounds good. They're looking for people who are actually doing good. And I think people can see through the fluff a lot more because they're now paying attention a lot more because they're all online. They're all seeing through the BS, right?
I would love to see the data. I mean, that chart has to be off the charts as far as screen time and all of it. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a prime opportunity. Granted, I know there's a ton of messages out there, but I mean, if there are organizations that you love, share the love, I think, too, is one of the things, just as a normal human being and consumer, it's that brand love. I mean, this is now the time to be doing it and taking care of each other. I mean, I just bought a plant and planter from Dash and White, and this super cool, I'll pull it on here, my little orb.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, let's just start putting good juju into this office. But, local, I shared that. I'm not getting anything from it. I'm not an influencer. I just love those brands. I love the people behind those brands too.
We talk a lot about this on the podcast, and we talk a lot about this with organizations, is lifting other groups and organizations up. As a marketing plan, on paper, you probably don't write, recognize and acknowledge and lift up our, quote, competitors.
Right.
What harm is it now? And do you see a benefit in acknowledging others' great works, even if they are in your same sandbox?
No, not at all. And so I'll use Marissa Willits of Next Level Consulting as an example.
Yes.
So her and I have some crossover services from a marketing perspective, but I just saw her announce that she has an office space. I'm like, go you.
Yes.
I want other people succeeding, even if they're in my competitive landscape, because we all learn from each other. We all resource work, to one another. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, they all say, all boats rise together and all the cliches, but that's a reality. And, I don't ever want to see anyone not working or their business failing, especially during this time. I mean, this is the last space where we need to be like, what's in it for me? And how can, yes, we all have to take care of ourselves, but my gosh.
I think it's more important now than ever. If you are a nonprofit and you see another nonprofit doing great things, use that as inspiration and acknowledge the fact that they're great in the first place. It's okay. And I think that hiding behind, well, maybe this isn't okay, or maybe I'm going to have an issue here, or maybe this isn't going to think. Okay, great. I don't know how that's going to benefit you by hiding behind a shell that's not saying you did great work or you're doing awesome things, is going to harm you. In fact, people are probably going to look at it going, hey, what a great team player in a time of concern and uncertainty. These individual groups or this person or this organization stepped up and said, wow, what an awesome job they're doing, regardless of what your original playbook said. And I think it might be authentic. I think it might be authentically proud of somebody else in the same field doing amazing things. And I think people are going to recognize that wholeheartedly.
Right. Well, and even saying like, dang, I wish I would have thought about that. I mean, even using those words like, oh, you're ahead of the game. Here I am, whatever it is. I mean, just genuinely giving them, kind of that social applause, I think is super important. And like I said, at the core of who we are, I just feel like most of us want to be doing that anyway.
I think, you said it, share the love. I think that's really important. Here, ironically, when you share the love, you are getting in front of people the same way that you would need and marketing and probably paying for it.
Right.
Your acknowledgement of somebody else's awesomeness is getting your name out to an audience that doesn't necessarily think about you all the time. That's free.
Exactly. Yep.
Do it. Just do it. Oh my goodness. What are some of the mistakes you're seeing? You have to have your eyes are attuned to this, by the way, and you know that you look at things through a glass that not a lot of people do. Are you seeing people who are making mistakes during this pandemic, and without giving away names, because we do not want to market shame anybody?
No.
But as examples, what are people doing that are not? Because I think we learn from others' mistakes, and partly, right?
Yes.
What are some no-nos you're seeing now that we can avoid in the nonprofit world?
Well, it's interesting. So I have a couple. The retail arena has been one that's really just blown my mind in not a good way. Talking about the quarantine outfit of the day. I'm like, girlfriend, I'm not going to be wearing ruffles and glitter and sequins and all the things. I am in my yoga or my sweatpants or whatever. And so it's just, it's totally going over someone's head on what everyone is going through. I mean, I'm not looking to work a pageant stage currently in my outfit of the day. So I just, those types of things. And then also too, just staying static. I think you can tell, when we talk about content strategies, you can tell that people scheduled posts months in advance or weeks in advance because they are completely out of tune with what's going on. That's one thing. If you have scheduled posts right now as any organization, go and look at them. And like you said, probably delete them. Yep. But holy crap, do they make sense now? Probably not. In most of the cases. So, and that's one thing too, I've always had a struggle with, content calendars and things like that, because our world is always changing so much. And it's hard to be human when you're scheduled, at 9:37 on this day or whatever time Facebook said this would be the best time to post. You talk about organizations and being in touch, kind of with your employees. You have to be continually asking yourself, what are we doing in our organization that's awesome? And it doesn't have to be big. Those little things tell the bigger story. And so I think that's another thing that we have to always, keep looking at. Let's not be robots. Let's not always be scheduled. Let's get human again.
Oh, seriously, those are the 3 best tips I've heard all week as far as it goes from a marketing standpoint. And I think It humanizes you as an organization, which is what the appeal is to that authenticity. But I think a lot of people, when they hear create content, and this is going to help, I think, a lot of nonprofits who are thinking it's so overwhelming because you got to post 5 times a day on 700 different channels, and I have to go 6 times on LinkedIn, but only 2 times on Facebook, and then I'm going to do 1 time on Twitter, but maybe 1 time on Twitter, and like the list of things that you quote have to do to be out there is overwhelming. And then I think the second part to that is the amount of content people think they have to create in order to get something that's good.
Right.
Talk to me about the amount and how, do we have to be, this is my first question, because brevity is not my strong suit. That's why I have a podcast. I can do this because I have a microphone. But do we have to post everywhere? Do we have to be everywhere? And then do we have to post War and Peace? Those are the 2 questions.
Okay. So no, I don't think you have to be posting everywhere. I think you have to post where it's working for you. I have had so many clients come to me and say, we need to be on Twitter. And my first question back to them is why?
Yep.
Are you going to be tweeting 27 times a day? Because I'm not going to be tweeting for you 27 times a day. I mean, you can't do it. I mean, when you look at social media management, I mean, that can truly be and should be likely a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so I think, no, not everywhere, not every day if it doesn't make sense either. I mean, if you're just, like I said, if you can tell that's a scheduled post and you're just posting it because someone told you you needed to, you're going to lose people because, again, that's also not authentic. I mean, that's just you trying to play the game and quite frankly, losing at it. So, and I think too, from like you think of content, I think people overthink it to death. I have a client right now and I'm pushing him really, really, really hard to do videos and just quick videos about why he even started his practice, because it is pretty remarkable. His background, the things that he went through in his childhood, he could, I mean, seriously, he could do a series of videos on that alone. But that would make me want to do business with him.
Yeah.
If I was suffering from any type of mental health, issues, that he covers and works on. And so, and he's a great guy. I mean, just articulate, salt of the earth. You want to hang out with him. I've been tailgating with him.
Yeah.
He talks about, because he loves to cook too. And I'm like, perfect. Cooking is good for the soul. I mean, that's helping your mental health too. So just those things as a person, that's what you should be talking about. People don't want to hear about statistics and, 1 in 5 this and, I mean, it's too much right now too. And so any opportunity to story tell in just a super chill way, I mean, I really think that's the direction that people need to be going. Personally, that's my shtick.
I love it. I know I agree with you 100%. One of the pushbacks that that I've pushed back on is, well, I don't know what to say if I go live, or I don't know what am I going to talk about? How am I going to do this? I think individuals who are timid about being in front of the camera, because I mean they're not either used to it or they aren't theater kids.
Right.
Sometimes you get lucky. But what would you tell people who are saying, well, I don't know what to talk about to do a Facebook Live, or I do a live on Instagram. I don't know what to talk. I'll freeze in front of the camera. Right.
Well, I think, the biggest thing too is you can have fun. Like, it's okay to have fun. And so, I even think of, if your first one, you're not sure, like, your facial expressions and what that's going to look like, start off by having a picture of you in front of you on the little popsicle stick or whatever, just, to like get that engagement going. But then just have those quick bullet points. It doesn't have to be a 20-minute video either.
No.
It's just, I think of, just different organizations like Bodyworks Physical Therapy. I'll use that client again. We look at things that are going on and like, you can do a video about that. And, she didn't want to in the beginning either, but she rocks it. It's just, we're our own worst critics. And so I think if you just have 2 or 3 bullet points that you want to talk about, and, I always ask people, would I want to do business with me if I was sharing this? Or, would I want to listen to me if I was sharing this? We always have to ask ourselves that before we go on camera.
I love it. That's such good advice. We're wrapping up our time here on the official Do Good Better podcast. Some parting shots, if an organization is just looking at and they got their hands in the air, where do they start? What's a first step that somebody can look at their brand and their marketing and they put pause and they're ready to ramp back up again, right? They're ready to open up their marketing.
Yes.
What's the first thing that you would suggest they do as they come out of the gate? Maybe they push pause on everything, which is a terrible mistake, but you're coming out of it, hey, I'm going to amend myself.
Right.
First thing that you would suggest an organization do to kind of ramp back up into a marketing game, best practice.
Yeah. So one of the things, especially from a nonprofit perspective, just because I know there's definitely limited budgets, in this downtime, take the opportunity to spread all of your materials out in front of you. And if it's all looking different and not telling the same story, start by addressing that. Because every time I get something from an organization, whether it's from a digital perspective or in print, I should know that it is you. So whether it's the, same 3 to 5 images that tell your story, similar headlines, whatever that is, that's one thing. I mean, from a visual perspective to really look at. The other thing, again, humanizing things. Take this time to get connected with your team. I mean, what are they doing during COVID? What challenges have they seen? Just, again, sharing those stories. And especially if you've been off the radar, take that opportunity to be like, me again, we really didn't know what we were doing and we were scared, and just owning that. Yeah. I think that's the thing too, or, hey, sorry you got 27 emails from me in 1 week. I was told I should be marketing the heck out of our organization, but I didn't know what that looked like. Now we've reined it in and you're going to get 1 a week or, whatever that looks like. So I just think, again, owning that you maybe didn't know what you're doing is okay too. People will love you for that because you're relatable and you're vulnerable, which I think is an important part of branding. It's scary, but that draws people in, I think.
This is one of the more remarkable podcasts with the most tangible things that you can take away. And I am so thankful that you came on today to spread brand and marketing and awareness and just general authenticity, because you're just the best. And if you ever get a chance to work with Amanda, you will understand that what you see and what you hear today is exactly the person that you will use and you will have as your marketing guru on the back end there. So I appreciate you being on the official Do Good Better podcast. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, they're gonna. Boundless individuals were gonna reach out to you because you can go anywhere now because it's a virtual world. Yes. How do they get a hold of Amanda McKinnon and MSPIRE? Go.
Yes, you can find me at MSPIRE.com, and that's M as in Mary, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, IRE.com.
I love that. And we will list all the other ways through social media and phone numbers and all that good stuff in the show notes. Of course, it's going to be great. And then please do reach out to her just for an audit, if nothing else, because she will speak your truth. And it will be wonderful to hear because you're going to have somebody who's a team player because she's wonderful. I've worked with her for a number of years, and it's just, you should give her a call. Anyway, Amanda, thank you so much for being on the official Do Good Better podcast. We will see you and we'll talk to you next time on the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thanks.